What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going over what I believe are the 7 biggest changes this offseason as a combination of head coaching changes along with just personnel changes for teams. At the top, number 1, obviously, Ben Johnson hired as the new Bears head coach. He was, of course, the Lions offensive coordinator. The Lions ranked first in points per game last season, first in plays per game last season. Love both of those in fantasy. Detroit also leaned run heavy, but that doesn't guarantee that Chicago is going to do the same. If we look at from like a personnel standpoint, Detroit has 2 incredible running backs, probably the best combo of running backs in the NFL. Chicago doesn't have that. Their strength is now at wide receiver. The best coaches adapt their scheme to the strength of their team. I expect Ben Johnson to do that. This is just a very positive move for Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. But then you look from a personnel standpoint as well. They go out and 10th overall. They select Colson Loveland, early 2nd round. I think it was like the 7th pick in round 2. They get Luther Burden. So just an insane amount of talent now on the offensive side of the ball. Somehow DeAndre Swift has survived the draft. He has survived free agency. Personally, I'd be pretty surprised if we look in week 1 and they still have DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, and then Kyle Monengai, I think is how you pronounce it. Regardless, I don't think that's going to be the trio they stick with. There are some rumors out there that they could sign Nick Chubb. There's some, I don't even know if it's rumors. Maybe it's just more me thinking this is a good move, that they could trade for Travis Etienne, just looking at Jacksonville and thinking, they've got 3 strong running backs, no elite running backs, but, the staff there is not married to Travis Etienne. I think they would maybe prefer to just have Tank Bigsby and Bashal Tutin kind of run things there. No real need to have all 3, but hey, maybe neither of them happen, and we actually do get DeAndre Swift as the top guy. And if that happened in week 1, obviously his ADP right now would be a joke. He would skyrocket there, but I think people are expecting, like I am, that, that's not going to happen. They're going to bring someone else in. But overall, just very positive moves for this Bears offense. It was an offense that we were excited about. Of course, we were excited about Caleb Williams last season. Kind of underperformed to a degree. He had his moments, but, he was a rookie quarterback. He had his rookie moments as well, but just so much talent now. We have great offensive play calling now as well. So very much like Chicago offense, very much willing to draft all of them in fantasy. Number 2, Liam Cohen, hired as the Jaguars' new head coach. He was, of course, the Bucs offensive coordinator last season. The Bucs were 4th in points per game. They were 9th in plays per game. And that's even, Godwin missed about half of the season, the second half of the year. Within that, you had like 3 or 4 games that Mike Evans didn't even play. So they had injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Still 4th in points per game, 9th in plays per game. Both of those, I don't know how much higher in points per game they could have gone. Maybe they could have gone up to like 2nd or 3rd. Plays per game probably would have jumped up a little bit as well if they had full health. Cohen was also the offensive coordinator for the Rams in 2022 when you had Cooper Kupp just setting the world on fire before he got injured. This isn't the seismic shift that I feel like the Bears offense is going to have. The Bears offense had just horrible play calling. And then they go to Ben Johnson, who was like the hottest commodity, of course, in this coaching cycle. But I do still believe that Cohen is an elite offensive coordinator. I think this is still great news for Jaguars players. They, of course, also draft Travis Hunter with the number 2 pick. They trade up to do that. They've talked about how he's going to kind of start off as a wide receiver, play a little bit. I would imagine, again, I've said this before, 3rd down, red zone, 2-minute drill, final drive of the game. Like those are kind of the situations where like he's playing cornerback. He's probably going to be not necessarily a 99% wide receiver, but if he's out there, 75, 80% of snaps, you're effectively doing that, right? Because some people, I guess, are concerned with, if he's not going to be full-time. Understand that when he's out there, he's going to have a high target share, right? And he's going to have designed plays. When he's not out there, they might run the ball. They might run specific plays to a tight end, specific plays to Brian Thomas Jr. So when he's out there, he'll be heavily utilized. He doesn't have to have a 99, 95% snap share to still be awesome in fantasy. So don't worry too much about that. But yeah, it's just great news for this offense. Of course, we had last season, you had worse play calling. You had really only Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver doing anything. You had Trevor Lawrence being injured for part of the season. I think doing that, bringing on Tootin, who I kind of mentioned before. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like the most likely outcome is that they trade away Travis Etienne, because there are teams that would be willing to give something up, not a crazy amount, but something up to get Etienne, because he's still a good player. I just think positive for his entire offense. I would be willing to draft all of them. I would say preference-wise, obviously Brian Thomas Jr., Underdog is a first-round pick. Maybe in redraft leagues, he's kind of at that turn because you bump up running backs a little bit. But he's an amazing pick. I'm good drafting Travis Hunter. I'm good waiting. If you want Brenton Strange, right, as a late-round tight end, I'm good with that. I'm not huge onto Trevor Lawrence, but then any of the running backs, if you think one of them you really like Tootin, I think all these guys are very viable in fantasy this season. But again, I've just never really been a Trevor Lawrence in fantasy guy. The ceiling's just not really there. Number 3, Pete Carroll is now the new head coach for the Raiders, and Chip Kelly is their new offensive coordinator. Carroll teams have historically been very run-heavy. Chip Kelly offenses are always going to play with a lot of pace. They also traded for Geno Smith, which is a clear upgrade at quarterback. This is also fantastic news for all Raiders players. Bowers is obviously the number 1 tight end in fantasy. There's really no questioning that this season. Genty, who they take early in the draft, he is the running back 4 right now in redraft leagues, the 101 in all dynasty formats. They're a very top-heavy team. So you've got, they are not going to finish, top 10 in scoring. They might have a lot of pace, and so maybe we get a lot of plays. This is really just an amazing landing spot for Ashton Genty, just because if they're going to be run heavy and have a ton of plays and there's no depth behind him, the touches are going to be absolutely insane. In games they win, my goodness, this kid could have like 30 touches. But very top heavy. So you've got Bowers, you've got Genty. Maybe we can stream Geno Smith in good matchups, or if he's really hitting with the offense, we can take shots on Myers, on Jack Beach, their rookie wide receiver. But overall, Bowers, Genty, great this season. Everyone else, more of a fringe play, not guys we're going to be like super excited about, because most of the offense is going to run through those two. And again, even having, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, this is not, again, an offense that's going to be top 10 in scoring. Number 4, Brian Schottenheimer is the Cowboys' new head coach. They got Clayton Adams as their new offensive coordinator, and then I think he was like an offensive line coach or something like that. And then Ken Dorsey is their pass game specialist, who was famously fired in Buffalo for being too pass heavy. They also traded for George Pickens this week. They also added Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders at running back. They also drafted Jaden Blue in round 5 and Phil Maffa in round 7. So a lot to unpack there, a lot of changes for the Dallas offense. And yet, right, I listed all of those things. The offense is still going to look relatively similar with CeeDee Lamb being featured. The biggest news is obviously who the heck is going to open the season as their starting running back, and what can we expect from George Pickens? How does that impact Jake Ferguson? Can we now go after Dak Prescott? Those are probably the biggest questions we have here. For the running back one, I have no idea. That's just going to be wait and see. And that's, I think, what their plan is. I think they wanted to say, okay, let's just go out and get a bunch of probably very mediocre running backs and hope that one of them hits. Is it a good strategy? Maybe not. But that's the strategy they're going to roll with this season. But it could certainly work out. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, they've at times been players we've been very excited about if given the opportunity in Dallas. I think both of them could be productive. It's just really going to be, can they hit in camp? Can we get a clear number 1, or are we going to have like some gross 3 running back committee. Right now, the market is saying, I don't know, none of these guys are going super high. So if you have a take, right now is a time. Like if you're sitting there like, no, Nick, Javonte Williams is far and away the best running back. That's what the market thinks right now, is that he's the best running back. If you think he's far and away the best running back, start drafting him ahead of ADP, because if it actually turns out that he's their best running back, then his ADP is going to skyrocket. I think he's like the 46, something around there, running back right now off boards. That's great value. If you actually think he's a clear locked in running back 1, he would probably go up to the running back like 25, and you get a lot of value at that spot. Again, I think we have to just wait for camp. I have no idea how this split is going to work out. As for Pickens, he steps right into the X wide receiver role. It is a great signing, trade for them. Takes pressure off CeeDee Lamb, right? So people were asking me, like, is this a positive or negative for CeeDee Lamb? It's still CeeDee Lamb, right? Before I had him as the wide receiver 2, I dropped him down barely to the wide receiver 3. He's still right there with Justin Jefferson behind Jamar Chase as just like awesome picks in like the middle of round 1. It really doesn't impact him all that much. His efficiency probably increases. The offense gets better overall, but the target share is going to take a step back because George Pickens is just going to command more targets than Jalen Tolbert, who was projected to be their number 2 wide receiver before. So it kind of just evens out. Maybe it reduces some of those just like nuke games where they're just hyper focusing on him because he's the only player they have. Well, they have George Pickens now, so it takes some of that away. But again, increased efficiency, and the offense itself will be better, and so there'll be more scoring opportunities. So I think it's mostly even. I think he was projected for like 2 more points than Jefferson before, and now he's like 1 point behind him. So it's like one catch. It really just doesn't change all that much. He's still awesome. As for Pickens, right now I have him as a significant value. I think right now I have him as like the 28th to 30th wide receiver off boards. I think his ADP is like 42, 43. So that's going to move up, obviously moving from, a slower paced, run heavy offense with an unknown quarterback to a much faster paced, pass heavy offense, one that, is going to have Dak Prescott at quarterback. Like, obviously that transition, even joining a team with CeeDee Lamb, is going to increase the value of George Pickens, even if it's just from like a weekly standpoint. The nuke games can finally be there. He can have games where he's got 7 for 150 and 3. The next week he might have 2 for 40 or 2 for 30 or something. So he's going to be volatile, but it's still a good spot. He's someone that you're going to be starting in fantasy. So his value obviously goes up. I don't totally know, kind of going back to that like pass run split there I kind of mentioned or alluded to. I don't totally know what it's going to be. Given those 4 running backs, feels pretty impossible to be a run heavy team. Given Dorsey just being in the building, having Dak Prescott back healthy, adding George Pickens, I think that leans to them being more pass heavy than last season. So that's what I have in the projections right now. I wouldn't say I'm like overly confident in that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, is kind of having all those factors in there. They're probably going to throw the ball at a higher rate than last season, which is a positive for us in fantasy. And again, kind of going back to the backfield there, currently I have the rankings as Javonte Williams, then Jaden Blue, then Miles Sanders, and then Phil Maffa. Again, I don't have a super strong take there. It truly is going to be who produces in camp. If Jaden Blue goes out there, is amazing, he's easily the best running back, they're going to go with him. If Miles Sanders, has a career resurgence and he's their best back, they're going to go with him. So it really just depends. This is when we got to watch beat reports very closely and see. But yeah, I think if you have a take there, take any of them ahead of ADP. Maffa, you probably are not drafting. He's the least likely. But if you really have a take him with your last pick. CeeDee Lamb's awesome. Dak is a high-end quarterback too. Pickens, again, in that like wide receiver 28 to 30 range. Which will probably be closer to his ADP in like a week or so. 5, Mike Vrabel is the new head coach for the Patriots, and they brought back Josh McDaniels as their offensive coordinator. Certainly not the upgrade we're getting in other spots. So as we move down this list into these final 3, not as good of upgrades, but still an upgrade. I mean, last year's staff was awful. We know that Vrabel is a good head coach. From like, not necessarily, he's not like Ben Johnson, right? Coming in there and just being a great offensive coordinator. He's a good head coach in that like the team is going to be prepared every week. They like him. They're going to win more football games. He's a defensive guy, though, so we'll see how much influence he has over the offense. Hopefully no influence over the offense. We really do not like when defensive coordinators, become head coaches, just because you kind of sometimes miss out on a really good offensive coordinator joining the staff, becoming head coach, and then calling plays. That can really help the offense. At times, the defensive coordinator goes in there and it's like, great, we've got a nice defensive mind here, but we need to score points on offense. So it's good that they have McDaniels back. It's good that he's probably going to do everything with play calling. He's going to do everything with play calling. Vrabel's not going to be calling plays. But yeah, we will kind of see how much, again, influence Vrabel has on the offense. I don't think it's going to be much. But yeah, Patriots are going to be better this season. Obviously, they made, a ton of offensive moves. They draft Travion Henderson early. They draft Kyle Williams way earlier than people thought. They signed Stephon Diggs. So a lot of new playmakers there. I'll say, again, it's still the Patriots, right? They drafted an offensive lineman 4th overall. It's really going to help the offensive line because it was terrible last season. Still the Patriots, still not a team that, again, is going to finish kind of like the Raiders. They're not going to finish top 10 in scoring, but Drake may prove to be, with horrible coaching, horrible skill players on offense last season, he proved to be quality. Like, I think there's no chance that he goes out there and is bad this season. Does he take a next step and perform as an elite quarterback? That's maybe a big question mark, but I think he's going to be a quality quarterback, someone that you could definitely stream in fantasy, definitely lean on, especially because of the mobility. And if, Stephon Diggs is good to go, if Kyle Williams really hits as a deep threat, if Travion Henderson is as good as some people think he can be, this offense can get going. The offense has upside. So I'm definitely willing to take shots here. I probably wouldn't overload in a redraft league. Don't be drafting a ton of these guys because there's still some risk here. But I'm totally fine drafting basically everyone just mentioned, plus Demario Douglas a little bit later on. It's an exciting offense now. Again, not one that's going to challenge Detroit for best in the league. At number 6, Kellen Moore is now the head coach of the Saints. He brings with him Doug Nussmeier to be their offensive coordinator. Doug was the Eagles quarterback coach last year. He was the Chargers quarterback coach in 2023. He was the Cowboys quarterback coach in 2020 to 2022. The Saints also drafted Tyler, I think it's So, but correct me if I'm wrong there. Show, maybe? I'm really not sure. Someone tell me how to pronounce that in round 2. Honestly, given how everything's been trending this offseason with this weird injury / not injury / injury, we don't know what's happening with Derek Carr. I would not be shocked if Carr just straight up doesn't play this season, if we just get Tyler as the starting quarterback all year. Regardless of whether that happens or not, I think our expectation should be that Tyler plays at least half the snaps, plays at least half of the games, is the person that when you're drafting, you should probably just assume is a starting quarterback. That definitely adds risk, right? He's a rookie. We don't know. A lot of people are very excited about his potential, but again, he is a rookie, and so that just adds risk to the offense. Historically, we haven't seen whenever you have a rookie quarterback, you typically don't see multiple pass catchers really outperform in fantasy. It can absolutely happen, but it's just a little bit less likely that you get multiple receivers have really strong years and the running back crushes. Rookies just take time to develop in the NFL. So if we're expecting that, we can't just start going all in on the Saints offense. Overall, we should expect just a lot more play volume overall. That's just been a staple of Kellen Moore offenses. But again, how fast they play has to come down to quarterback play. Kellen Moore's also coached quarterbacks that are veterans, that are good in the NFL, proven. He hasn't had, Tyler, right? He hasn't had a quarterback that we just don't know how good he's going to be. It would be surprising if, as a rookie, he goes out there and plays at a super fast pace, a ton of no huddle. He's probably going to have to, dial back the offense a little bit, at least early on, because you have a rookie quarterback. Again, that adds unknown, at least for now. For what it's worth right now, Kamara is the running back 21. Devin Neal is the running back 54. This is by ADP. Olave, wide receiver 33. Shaheed, wide receiver 55. Juwan Johnson, tight end 30. If you believe that Kellen Moore is going to come in, really help this offense, maybe go back to the first 2 weeks of last season, how good they were there. Remember that? They were scoring 45 points a game. Then they fell off a cliff when they had the injuries. If you believe this team is talented, which They objectively are. There's a lot of talent on this offense if everyone can actually stay healthy. If you believe that, you believe in Tyler, again, I don't know how you pronounce it. You believe in that combination. Those ADPs are more than fair. Again, I don't think they're going to have 2 wide receiver ones, but they don't have to. When Olave is a wide receiver 33 and Shaheed is a wide receiver 55. If they both stay fully healthy and Tyler ends up being good and it's a fast-paced offense, they're going to blow past those ADPs. So it really just depends how you feel. How you feel about Devin Neal as well, their rookie running back. Does he step in and be what we thought Kendre Miller could be? Some people think he's basically just like a better version of Kendre Miller. Again, we don't know. We're probably going to need camp there, and it's not like he was a super highly drafted rookie, but there's potential on this offense. So if you believe in these changes being positive, then it's a team that you can definitely get some value out of. Final change go over today. Aaron Glenn is now the Jets' new head coach. Tanner Engstrand is their new offensive coordinator. Glenn was the Lions' defensive coordinator, and Tanner was the Lions' passing game coordinator, but let's be honest, Ben Johnson was the one calling plays there. Overall, again, I alluded to this before, I do not like when defensive coordinators become head coaches. I'm fine with Vrabel because he's been a head coach. We know how he is as a head coach, so there's a lot less unknowns there. He's a guy that's been proven that the players really like. He can have really good teams. We don't know that with Glenn over here. I just don't like it overall. It's much better when you pull in an offensive coordinator just because you, at minimum, even if they're not a great head coach, you at minimum have someone who's proven to be good calling plays, now calling plays. So a lot of unknowns here for the Jets. Also, they now have Fields at quarterback. So my guess is that they go really run heavy on offense. They play slow, means probably lean on defense style of play. Very unideal for fantasy. Right now, by ADP, Fields is already the quarterback 11. That feels very early. I've given him all the starts, right? I haven't pulled back anywhere. I've given him all the starts. I've given him a huge rushing workload. I can't project him as the quarterback 11 right now. There's truly nothing that I can do. Even looking at his historical run rates, I'm giving him, again, every start in the season, giving him all of his historical rushing stats. It is very difficult unless we project this offense to really get going. It's hard to project him, honestly, even close to the quarterback 11. I think I have the quarterback 16 or 17 right now. I could maybe get it up to the quarterback 13 or 14, but at quarterback 11, you are expecting a lot from him. I just can't do it. Breece Hall, running back 13. I think that's what I have, 13 or 14. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 14. I think I'm at wide receiver 16 or 17. All are just a little bit steep. They can fall in drafts. You can take them if they go past their ADP. For the most part, though, I'm just kind of staying away from this Jets offense. Breece Hall's ADP probably makes the most sense if you think this new staff is going to look at it and be like, nope, he's our guy. If they're going to be run heavy, really focus on him. But a lot of the value from Breece Hall would come from the receiving game, right? He's a great pass catcher, very explosive there. It would come from touchdowns if he's a clear guy there. Well, we know hypermobile quarterbacks don't target the running back at a very high rate, so we shouldn't expect a lot of targets for Breece Hall from Justin Fields. We know that Justin Fields is going to steal rushing touchdowns near the goal line. That is a negative. And we know this isn't like the Eagles, right? Last season, we're like, oh, well, Saquon's going to lose rushing touchdowns to Jalen Hurts. It's like, yeah, but when you're scoring in the upper 20s every game, oftentimes into the 30s, it doesn't matter as much. There's a lot of touchdowns go around. If some get stolen, you still get some. That's not the Jets, right? The Jets are not going to be scoring 30 points per game. They're going to be scoring 20, so there's not going to be touchdowns to go around. And so if they only score 2 touchdowns a game, and one of them gets stolen by Fields and he throws for one, so the running backs don't get any touchdowns, and there's a chance it's a 3 running back committee, there's a lot of downside here. So we're going to see the name Breece Hall and probably get excited if he's being drafted consistently as a running back 2. And again, I can see the upside there because he's a phenomenal talent. If this is a defensive-minded team that wants to win by just playing it safe on offense, utilizing the ground game, he'll be in line for a lot of touches. And in the games that they do win, which they will win some games, he's going to have a lot of upside. It's just that when you take away the receptions from Breece Hall, you kind of limit the touchdown ceiling, you look at the offense, you look at the other backs they still want to use, it's a little scary. Then you translate that to wide receiver for Garrett Wilson, and you're like, sure, he's the clear guy, but it's Fields, slow pace, run heavy. It's just not a situation you really are super excited about in fantasy. So the ADPs fall for some of these guys. Like if they start going a little bit later by ADP, and then they also fall in your draft, we can get some values. Because if you get Breece Hall as like the 17th or the 18th running back, now we're like, okay, we're at low end running back too. Not as difficult for him to reach that. If Garrett Wilson starts to fall close to the wide receiver 20 in your draft, you're like, okay, we're looking much closer like a flex play now. I'll start to be interested there. Right now, they're not at that point, so not super pumped about the Jets offense. So those are 7 pretty big changes to teams this offseason. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and make sure to download my free app while you're down there in the description box down below. Start filling out your must-draft players, your sleepers, your fades. We're going to see who's got the best takes this season, and I want to start seeing who you guys like and don't like the most right now. So all that in the description box down below. Also, if you have a dynasty draft coming up, my rankings are fully updated for both startups and rookie drafts. You can see all that on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, or on the app. That'll do it for this one, though. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all on Monday's mock draft video.